Welcome to the Modern Taoist with Kit Man. Ancient wisdom, modern life, and the way. Visit us online at taoananda.com or find us on all the socials. Now, the Modern Taoist.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 4. And I say that with kind of a smile on my face because our distributor, who I'm sure are human beings and have nothing whatsoever to do with this because it's all tech. It's all tech now. You know, you find a distributor that you want to use for your podcast and you pay the fee and then you put in all the information and then tech stuff happens and humans don't even ever touch it. So I'm not ever going to blame human beings for little tech problems that come up. But we were supposed to launch our podcast on September the 1st of 2025. If you're listening to this beforehand, it is because our distributor decided, the heck with it, launch it on August the 28th of 2025. So it jumped out there a bit early. So when I laugh and say this is episode 4, what my intention was, and everyone's intention was to have 5 episodes in the can, as they call it, so that if you enjoyed this podcast, you could binge 5 episodes right off the bat. We live in a binge world now, right? Raise your hand if you get a new series that comes out and you find out it's not a binge-worthy, or it's not a binge series, but they come out with a new episode like every Tuesday. And you go, wait, what? Why I gotta wait? So here we are on episode 4, part of the binge bucket that was supposed to come out on the 1st. After that, beginning with episode 6, by the way, they will always come out on Tuesday mornings, just in case you're wondering. Today's episode is probably deceptively negative, and I don't mean for it to be that, but it is called What the West Gets Wrong. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I came at Taoism from we talked about it in the first episode, and I'll probably hit on it a billion times between now and the end, but I came at Taoism from a scholastic, intellectual point of view, from a point of view of I wanted to learn more about Eastern thought, not just Taoism, but Buddhism and Zen Buddhism and Confucius and Shinto and all of it. I wanted to learn about all of it. And so I came from that realm and did not get into the practice of it until I began studying with a Taoist master, Master Zhao, my teacher, for 15 years. And once I spoke to him once, I knew this was the direction, the path that I would walk. Or at least try to walk. And I have not been good at it many times. I have not been perfect. And if any Taoist master or any Taoist teacher tells you that they have been perfect, well, that's not true. Because being perfect is virtually impossible. And that's okay. But my point is when I did veer away, one thing that always stayed with me and became even louder when I veered back into Taoism was all of the things the West has gotten wrong about the East. And I don't mean politically, I mean philosophically and spiritually. The West tends to package everything. Whereas the East, for the most part, it's getting worse, if that's the word you want to use. But for the most part, the East doesn't package tradition. Right now, if you walk into any bookstore, any big bookstore in America or any part of the West, in Australia or England, wherever, and walk through the bookstore or scroll through your favorite bookstore app, you're going to see choice after choice after choice of big, loud, glossy titles promising shortcuts to enlightenment, the Tao of success, karma in 30 days, yoga for busy professionals. Instagram feeds are filled to the top with quotes from Lao Tzu or Buddha or Confucius, often paired with stock photos of waterfalls or mountain peaks. And at first glance, it looks harmless. It's probably even inspiring most of the time. But beneath that surface, if you look, something important is happening, and that is ancient traditions are being flattened and stripped of context and sold as lifestyle products. The packaging, the branding is, here's a spiritual fix that you can buy and suddenly get better. Taoism becomes a Pinterest board of fortune cookie slogans. Buddhism gets reduced to good vibes only. Yoga turns into an expensive workout routine with a logo. Meditation becomes a 10-minute productivity hack that you download to reduce workplace stress. It's great, it's neat, it's tidy, it's marketable, but it's not the heart of the practice. Now, you may think to yourself, if you're not a Taoist, you may think to yourself, why does any of this matter? What does it matter how I get to the topic? And here's why it matters. Because Taoism in its depth is about aligning yourself with the natural rhythms of life. It's not about collecting sayings or learning to breathe in a certain Instagram-worthy pose. If you saw my poses, even though I feel like I know quite a bit about Qigong and some about Tai Chi Quan, my poses are not anything that anybody's going to look at and go, well, that guy, look at that. Hey, look at that. Buddhism at its root is about facing suffering head on, not denying it with a smile. Yoga, in its earliest form, was about integrating body, health, and mind into a holistic path of awareness, not about selling leggings at premium prices. Meditation was meant to wake you up, not put you to sleep. And I don't mean to sound frustrated, because really I'm not. I'm hoping to educate. There's nothing inherently bad about wanting to make traditions accessible. I'm doing a version of that myself by sitting down to record the podcast. It's fine. The issue becomes when the marketing becomes the message. When the surface presentation replaces the substance. When people walk away thinking they've, quote unquote, done Taoism because they memorized some quotes, or they've mastered meditation because they used an app. What they really got was the shallowest, thinnest slice of something vast, something enormous. I've seen this firsthand. I've seen students at Qigong sessions proudly say they know Taoism because they got a book of quotes and they read them every morning. Okay, that's not unusual. That's how the West has trained us to think that if we can buy it, skim it, and pin it to a vision board, we are practicing. But unfortunately for this particular person, and I say unfortunately, but it's really fortunately, traditions don't work like that. They're not information, they are transformation. And transformation doesn't happen through slogans. It happens through lived practice. A very, very smart yoga teacher from India, I don't recall his name, said one time in I believe it was a documentary, he said, Yoga without the meditation is just stretching. The deeper problem is when you treat Taoism or Buddhism or yoga, Hinduism, anything, even Christianity, when you treat it like a motivational meme, you're actually making it harder to engage with the real thing because you walk in with the assumption that you already know. When you've reduced something down to being easy, when you encounter the actual depth, when Lao Tzu talks about embracing paradox, or when the Buddha says suffering is unavoidable, you resist. You get mad. You say, well, that's not what Instagram said. This is complicated. And you walk away before the practice has a chance to do real work. Taoist teachers are typically very funny, a little bit sarcastic, kind of quiet, not super quiet, but very matter of fact. I have seen Zen instructors yell at people. When you're sitting in Zazen and you're not doing it right, you're liable to get a bamboo across the back of your neck. It gets difficult when it's not just a bumper sticker. The practice is not something that is good vibes only. So in this episode, I want to slow things down. I want to look at what the West so often gets wrong. It's in its packaging of traditions. And more importantly, I want to explore how you can sidestep that noise, how you can step past the slogans and the hashtags and the branding and actually touch the living pulse, if you will, of these practices. Because when you do, you're going to find something better than good vibes only. You're going to find something that grounds you and challenges you and slowly, very slowly sometimes, reshapes the way that you move through your day. So this podcast is never meant to be another shortcut, and I hope that that doesn't disappoint you if you're new to Taoism, but you need to know that Taoism isn't meant to be a shortcut. So let's start with Taoism. When most people think in the West, think of Taoism, the first thing that comes to mind is probably the yin yang or a quote. Maybe they've seen a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And they saw it on a coffee mug and they went, hey, that's true. Or they saw a movie and Bruce Lee said, be like water. Well, these lines are real and they do come from Taoist thought, but they're presented in a way that makes them look like motivational slogans. That's not Taoism, that's marketing. The Tao Te Ching is a central text of Taoism. It's not a collection of one-liners meant to give you a boost. It's poetic, sometimes frustrating, often paradoxical text that points you towards the rhythm of life. And you sit there and you have to read it 7 or 8 times and then you go, okay. It doesn't hand you answers. It unsettles you with questions. It talks about strength being found in softness, about good leaders ruling by stepping back, about how the more you try to control, the less control you actually have. If you read it slowly, you realize none of this is trying to make you feel good. It is not meant for that. It's trying to shift the way you see the world and the way you react. That's where the West misses the point. We love the quick fix. We want Taoism to be a self-help strategy that we can digest in a meme or a podcast, but the Tao resists that. It's not about grasping for power or wealth or wisdom. It's about noticing the flow, stepping into the rhythm with the flow and letting go of the need to force an outcome. That's not something you get after reading a bumper sticker. You don't understand that immediately. It's something you have to practice moment by moment. I mean, so many Taoist theories and even quotes are bumper sticker slogans. Go with the flow. I had a friend of mine who said that to me. He said, Taoism is simple, just go with the flow. But in his life, he was constantly at war with the flow, fighting deadlines, forcing relationships, trying to shape every detail. So he knew the words go with the flow. He said it all the freaking time. I'm just going with the flow, man, That's just me going with the flow. But he never practiced going with the flow. He didn't actually go with the flow. He just said he was going with the flow. It's not about knowing the line. It's about looking at your own habits and saying, where am I rigid, where I could be soft? Where am I clinging, where I could let go? That's how Taoism becomes alive and not just clever. And the book, the Tao Te Ching, is not meant to be read quickly. There's 81 chapters. It can take months for that to sink in. One of the best ways I find to approach is to pick a single chapter, read it, and just sit with it. Give it a week. Read it every morning. Carry it with you. Watch where it echoes in your life. And some of it's poetic and kind of backward and hard to understand. And I don't mean backward thinking. I mean kind of talks backward a little bit. On this podcast, we are at some point going to take individual chapters and apply them to modern life. And I'll try to explain. I think one of my strengths, because I have gone at it from both a scholastic viewpoint and a practice, is I feel like I understand a lot of the words and the poems in ways that maybe a lot of people in the West don't quite get. You know what I'm saying? So if you do that, if you break it down and if you learn what it's trying to say, when you begin to approach Taoism in that way, you'll start to notice how it applies to your ordinary life. You'll see it how you disagree with your spouse, how you drive in traffic, how you respond when plans fall apart. One of my favorite things that is not in the Tao Te Ching, it's something that I made up, I think, myself, is the clouds don't care that you had plans. So being mad at the weather, which we've all been guilty of, makes no sense. So it's how you respond and how you learn that when plans fall apart, it is just the way it goes. Another bumper sticker, it is what it is. How many times people say that? They don't know what that means. They just say, it is what it is. It is what it is, yes, but it is how you respond to it that determines your balance. I was going to say happiness, but that's not true because balance is what the word we're looking for. So if you want to move past the fortune cookie version of Taoism, here's the invitation. Stop treating it like a quote collection. Treat it like a mirror. Let's move on to the others. Buddhism, karma, yoga, reincarnation. Let me clear up the fog a little bit. If you are a practicing Taoist or if you're coming from a place of knowledge when it comes to the East, a lot of this stuff you're already going to know. But a lot of people that listen to podcasts like this, and one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast is education for people that are new and that are curious about Taoism. And here I am scaring them off by telling them it's hard. But I want to clear up a few things. When the West picked up words like Buddha, Buddhism, karma, yoga, reincarnation, it's often treated like T-shirts. It becomes oversimplified, almost cartoonish versions of what they actually mean in real life. Let's start Buddhism. In the West, that gets marketed as a pursuit of endless calm. Sit in meditation, breathe slowly, achieve permanent inner peace. But that's not what the Buddha taught. His very first teaching, what is known as the First Noble Truth, says life is suffering. It's not exactly a good vibes t-shirt message. Now, what he meant by that is suffering isn't an accident in the system. It's built in to your existence. Loss, illness, frustration, impermanence. All of this is part of being alive. Buddhism isn't about escaping the suffering or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about facing it honestly, seeing it clearly, and finding the freedom even within it. It's a far, far cry from the Instagram image of Buddhism as a stress-free living, because it is not meant to be that. Very much like Taoism, and we'll talk about the difference between Taoism and Buddhism at some point here in one of these episodes. And it's, Taoism is far older, but it's meant to be about noticing. So let's move on. Then karma, right? Karma all the time. Karma. Oh, karma going to get him. Karma's going to get him. Karma's not a system of retribution like the West pretends it is. What comes around goes around. Do good and good happens to you. Do bad and you'll get punished. Karma isn't a cosmic judge keeping score. It is a way of describing cause and effect. Every choice creates ripples. If you constantly act with impatience, you are shaping a world where impatience follows you everywhere you go. If you practice generosity, generosity becomes the texture of your relationships. Karma is about momentum, not morality. It's about recognizing, there it is again, recognizing, seeing your habits, and building the world that you live in. The problem with the Western version is that it makes karma sound like a cosmic punishment instead of a mirror of your own patterns. And we'll get all into that one of these days. Now let's talk about yoga. In the West, yoga studios, yoga might be the one that has been mislabeled and misread more than any other Eastern tradition. Yoga studios are on every corner. They sell memberships. They sell leggings with the logo on it. They sell protein smoothies. They sell all green grass drinks. The practice is marketed almost entirely in the West as a physical fitness workout. Every big box gym has a yoga class. It's something to tone your body, reduce your stress, make you more flexible. And that's fine, but yoga in its oldest sense literally means union. Did you know that? The physical postures, they're called asanas, were only part of a much bigger spiritual path designed to prepare your body for meditation. Let me back up. They were meant to align your body with your breath, and your breath with your mind, and your mind with awareness. But we have reduced it to stretching and calorie burning, which is like reducing Mozart to background noise. You miss the deeper resonance. Look, that doesn't mean that enjoying the physical benefits is wrong. It's not. But if that's all you're doing it for, you're only missing the point. And another concept that gets misunderstood, maybe even more than yoga, although I don't know about that one. In Western pop culture, that is reincarnation. Because that gets boiled down to you're going to come back as something else. You look out, you might come back as a cricket and I'll step on you. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'll come back as a king. Well, depending on your karma, you might be a dog. Most Eastern traditions, reincarnation it's not about literal rebirth into another body. It's more about continuity. It's about how life flows in cycles, how actions ripple forward, how nothing is truly separate. Reincarnation is an interesting topic, and we're going to talk about one of these days because it's handled differently in a lot of different philosophies, I guess is the word I'm looking for. In Taoist thought, the boundary between life and death isn't as fixed as we imagine. Death is not an end, it's a transformation. It's transforming your physical body into something else and your soul into something else. The tree falls, but its body feeds the soil. The soil nourishes new life, and new life springs forward, and the process goes again. You're not an isolated spark. You're part of a current of energy that never stops moving. Energy does not stop. Taoism is really the first way of thinking that was published, that science is beginning to prove. Because it talks about how the energy of your body just does not stop. So the reincarnation in Taoism, what ties all this together is kind of distortion. The West takes concepts that are complex, paradoxical, and sometimes uncomfortable, and repackages them into slogans or products. Buddhism equals peace, karma equals punishment, yoga equals exercise, reincarnation, coming back as a chicken. Whatever. Because those versions are easy to market, you see. You understand? They rob people of their real transformative power that these traditions can offer. So here's my challenge to you. If you're new to this, and even if you need to be reminded of it, when you hear the words, don't stop at the definition. Ask yourself, what is this practice meant to do? What is the original purpose? Instead of repeating the marketing version, go back to the roots. Read the texts. Ask teachers. More importantly, test them out in your real life. See if karma really does play out as cause and effect. Start being kind to someone you never would have thought to be kind to before, and see if it doesn't come back around to you. The kindness. See if more kindness doesn't start flowing in your life. Meditate, properly meditate, and notice if you do it regularly, if it begins to reveal suffering rather than hiding it. Try yoga, but make sure you go to a practice that includes the meditation. Try it not just as an exercise, but as a doorway into awareness. Let reincarnation teach you about cycles, not about fantasies of being reborn as king of Ketopia. Although that would be cool. That's how you cut through the fog. Stop collecting the souvenirs and start stepping into the living stream of practice. And it's called practice for a reason, because it's not called perfection. You're not going to get perfect. You have to practice. Let's talk about meditation just briefly here. Because in the West, meditation is everywhere. There's apps, you put it in your earbuds, you have this calming voice walking you through 10 minutes of mindfulness. You've got workplaces that encourage it as a way to boost productivity and reduce burnout. Doctors are now prescribing it for stress and anxiety, and all of that can be helpful. I'm not trying to poo-poo that. There's nothing wrong with using meditation to relax. That's totally cool, baby. Do whatever you want. But when meditation is sold only as a stress relief, the practice is stripped down of its real power. Because at its root, meditation isn't about escaping discomfort or smoothing over the stress or getting your heart rate down. It's about waking up to reality. Qigong meditation, Buddhism, Buddhist meditation, Zen, which is very strict meditation, is used to help us see clearly, not just to feel better, but to understand how your mind actually works. And that's uncomfortable sometimes. Sit still long enough and you start to notice how restless and repetitive and noisy your thoughts really are. You'll see how quickly you get hooked by stories about the past and fears about the future. You watch emotions rise and fall, sometimes with surprising intensity. Meditation is meant to show you what's there, whether you like it or not, because recognizing it is how we get past it. That's where the real power of meditation lies, because once you see those patterns, you can begin to loosen the grip. You start to realize, hey, this is not me. This feeling isn't forever. This story isn't the whole truth. It can give you a profound shift. It gives you space to respond instead of react. Those two words mean two completely different things. One time, I was in a guided meditation class, and someone was brand new. And after a week, they came back and said, man, I'm terrible at this. My mind wandered the whole time. And I said, good. Because the wandering is the practice. Noticing the wandering, bringing yourself back to the breath and repeating that process, that's meditation. It's not closing your eyes and go to sleep. It's not about silencing the mind like flipping a switch. It's about seeing your mind clearly and learning not to be owned by it. Here's the surprising thing. Meditation doesn't make your life easier. It makes you more present for life as it comes, because stress is coming, baby. Pain is coming. Meditation helps you relate to it differently. So instead of being swallowed whole, you have the space to meet it with clarity. Now, I know we've covered a lot in this episode, and I've said before, we're going to try to make these episodes anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes long. I can't see them going much further past that because, maybe you don't want to listen to me for an hour. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out at the website, which is dawananda.org, or through one of the socials. And if I see the question, I'm happy to tackle it or answer it for you. You can also email thedawananda@gmail.com. Believe it or not, somebody already had dawananda@gmail.com. I don't know. It's Tao with a D, by the way. And we'll explain it one of these days, but most of you guys already know you can spell it either way you want. D or a T, doesn't matter. It's the same word. Lao Tzu had really bad handwriting. That's not true. He had great handwriting. The people that were translating it didn't know what they were looking at. So D's look like T's, I guess. I'll explain it all to you. I do have a really in-depth explanation. I'll stop giggling and I'll explain it all to you one of these days. So we've covered a lot here. how Taoism gets flattened into coffee mug quotes, how Buddhism is sold as stress-free lifestyles. These are just all distortions. But the important part is you do not have to fall for it. You don't need to buy into the packaging to benefit from the tradition. It's okay. And it doesn't mean you have to stop wearing your cool yin-yang t-shirt. Like, I have a t-shirt that I want so badly to the point where I may just have to make it myself. And I said it in the last episode. My karma ran over your dogma. Don't you think that's a cool t-shirt? Just because you buy the stuff, it's okay. You can buy your pre-cut, already done bonsai tree. That's okay if you're using it for decoration. If you want to use it for the true reason, bonsai, you got to get that stuff in nature. Plant it, grow it, trim it, shape it. It takes years. I'm not going to get judgmental of anybody that buys retail piece. Just understand that's what you're doing. If you want to do it in the tradition of the practice, the first step is to start small. Just start small and stay consistent. You don't need to commit to hours and hours and memorizing the Tao Te Ching and doing every single perfect pose in Qigong. You don't need to do that right off. Try 5 minutes of sitting quietly. Read one chapter of the Tao Te Ching and carry it with you. Go for a walk without your phone. And notice the rhythm of your breath and your steps. These are simple, ordinary things. But if you repeat them, they become very powerful. Step 2, pay attention to the results, not the rules. Taoism doesn't hand out commandments. Observe. How do you feel? Does the practice open you up or shut you down? Do you feel more connected or more scattered? The third step is to separate the practice from performance. Because in the West, we're constantly nudged to show off what we're doing. Did you post that yoga pose that you held so perfectly? Did you log your meditation streak? Did you buy the right yoga pants? None of that matters. The real gift is engaging sincerely. Accept your imperfections. The traditions aren't becoming a perfect version of yourself. Don't buy that line. If somebody is asking for money to teach you these things, you already know where they lie. You're never going to be perfect. Accept that. You're going to forget what you're doing. That's fine. Nobody's keeping score. The Tao doesn't demand flawless practice. The point is, I've left and returned and left and returned. It's happened. These traditions are living. They're not static. They don't sit in one spot. Pick something small and begin. Read one passage. Sit for 5 breaths. Walk around the block. That's how you sidestep the packaging. That's going to wrap up episode 4 of the Modern Taoist. I thank you so much. If you have if you want to, like or subscribe or follow or heart or whatever you have to do on your particular app, I am going to go for now, and I thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Modern Taoist with Kit Man. Visit us online at dawananda.com or find us on all the socials. Please like or subscribe on this platform, and thanks again.